Whenever you're undertaking an audio or video project, one of the most important things that you can do is plan. Planning can be incredibly effective and is an excellent way of making sure that your project sounds professional, runs efficiently, and is generally smooth in all areas. There are several simple but effective methods that you can use to plan an audio project, and in this video, we're going to go through a couple of those. One of the most common methods used to plan video projects is that of storyboarding. You may be familiar with storyboards from films or television programs that you may enjoy. The concept of a storyboard is in fact very simple. It makes use of a series of still images to represent visual changes in the duration of the movie. For instance, a change of shot or a change of scene. Underneath each of these visual images is some textual information explaining a little bit more about what's going on, specifically relevant to whoever may be viewing the storyboard. The concept of a storyboard may not seem to immediately apply to an audio project. However, many of the principles can be used in both situations. For instance, using a storyboard template like this one, where the visual images would have been in each of these boxes, I can instead place information relevant to my audio project. So for instance, the first thing in this week's project is to introduce some intro music, and I'll put that in the first box here. Following on from that is the introductory audio. That's the first piece of audio, and I'll put that in this second box. Following on from that is the interview audio, and that's the first interview, the main interview that we recorded. And following on from that is the outro music. So there we have it, a very simple storyboard for our project. The intro music, intro audio, interview audio, and the outro audio. But what about if I want to add some of that background audio in? The first piece of background audio goes between the intro audio and the interview audio here. Now the way I choose to do this is by using some of the textual information lines underneath and just simply writing it in. So for the first one, I'll write BG, background audio. Very simple, and it spans intro audio and interview audio. For the second piece of background audio, and that's the train passing through the station, that goes underneath the interview audio section, and I'll put that on the next line down, and I'll call that BG background audio 2 to differentiate between them. So here we have a completed storyboard for our project. It's very simple, but it has the core bits of information required to construct the end project. Although the storyboard can be an effective way to plan an audio project, there are probably some better ways, and one of these is definitely through the use of the flowchart. You may already be familiar with the use of flowcharts. You may use them to plan things in the home, or at work, or in your studies. I'm going to go over one simple way of creating an effective flowchart for the project in this week's activity. The first thing that I'm going to start with is an oval. An oval is a very common starting shape in flowcharts, and in here I'm going to write intro music. That's where we start, so that's the first thing that goes on the flowchart. Now the next thing that goes in is a line, and then I'm going to draw a box. It's common to use a rectangle shape for this. And in the box here I'm going to write intro audio. So that's the first piece of audio again. And so we can see that the intro music leads into the intro audio through this line here. Now I'm going to put another line and another rectangle box, and in here I'm going to write interview audio. And then I'm going to draw another line down and a final oval as an ending shape, and in here I'm going to put outro music. So here we have the 4 key stages that make up our audio project: intro music, intro audio, interview audio, and outro music. But what if I want to add some of that background audio? I've chosen to have 2 pieces of background audio spanning some of the elements here. Well, how I do that is using branches off the main structure. The first thing to consider is the first piece of background audio, which goes in between the intro audio and the interview audio. So what I'm going to do first is use the space on the left here. I'm going to draw a line and then down, and I'm going to draw a box here. Finish the line there, and in here I'm going to write BG, background audio. And I think I'll put a 1 in there as well. Great. Now I'm going to join that back up, a line down and across, and it joins back up with the interview audio. So there we have the first piece of background audio. The second piece of background audio goes during the process of interview audio. And in order to do this, I'm going to put a branch from the line here joining intro audio and interview audio, and then I'm going to go down and draw a box. Just finish that off. And in here, I'm going to write BG, background, audio, and I'm going to put a 2 in, background audio 2. I'm going to finish that off by joining it back to the line that joins interview audio and outro music. At this point, it starts to get a little complicated with lines going everywhere, so I'm going to use some arrows to show the direction of flow. So I'm going to put some arrows down here, and an arrow in here, an arrow coming out, another one here, and another one here. So here we can see intro music leads to intro audio, to interview audio, to outro music. However, during the course of intro audio, background audio 1 appears, goes back in there. Over the course of interview audio 2, background audio 2 appears, and then it feeds back in. And there we have the completed flowchart for this activity. It can be very effective to use paper and a pen to create a very simple but efficient flowchart like this one. All the information's there and it makes sense, and it's the information that's critical to a good flowchart. However, you may find yourself asking, are there any other tools that I can use? Well, if you happen to have a tablet PC like this one, you can use this. Here you can see I've nearly finished my project. I'm going to add another box, and I'm going to put a second interview audio, just in case I do another interview section. I'm going to call that interview audio 2, and then I'm going to finish that off with the usual ending oval, and in here I'm going to write outro music. So that's great. It's a bit more high tech, the information's there, but it's not particularly neat. It's still a bit rough and ready. So are there any other tools I can use to make it look a bit neater and tidier? Well, in fact, the best tool you can use is in most word processing applications. And here, I'm using OpenOffice Draw. This application gives me a great range of tools to create a professional looking, neat and tidy flowchart. First, I'm going to go to File, New, Drawing. And then I'm going to make that full screen. So next, I'm going to start by adding some shapes, and I go down here and I select the first shape that I want, which is an oval shape. I can find that there, and then I'm going to click and draw it. Reposition it on the page until it's roughly central, and then I'm going to come down and I'm going to get a box, a rectangle. I'm going to draw that about there, reposition it, try and get it in the middle, and I might make it a little bit bigger just so that it matches. So there we are, we've got one oval and one box. I'm going to copy that box by going to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste. You could use the shortcut keys for this. I'm going to reposition that pasted box, so now I have two boxes, and then I'm going to copy this oval here. I'm going to go to Edit, Copy, Edit, Paste. It always pastes over the item that you've copied it from, and I'm going to move it down to the bottom here. Try and get it in the middle, and there we go. That's great. So here we have the 4 key elements for our flowchart, and the next thing I'm going to do is get an arrow and draw between each of the elements to show the flow. The arrow tool is located down here. Having already placed one, I'm going to simply copy and paste that. Going to use the shortcut keys for this. And there we go. I'm going to move that, and the gap is a bit bigger, so I'm going to just extend that there. Again, I'm going to paste the first one in, put that down there, and join up to that last oval. So we have the 4 key elements here. The first oval, the first rectangle, the second rectangle, and the final oval, and they're joined together by arrows showing the flow. The next thing I want to do is add some text. I go down here to the text tool, I come up to the first oval, I drag out a box, a text box, and then I simply type the text that I want. From here, I can obviously select and resize the text. I can change the font color. I can also change the shapes and colors of any of the elements or arrows should I choose to, so I can make it look visually appealing. For instance, like this one. So I hope that this tutorial has shown you that the tools for planning can be simple but effective ways of making sure that your audio project has a professional and efficient feel to it.